So ready when you are.
Okay, we are live.
Cool. Should I take it away then?
Take it away.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining. Today is September 30th, 2021, and this is another meeting of the Node.js package maintenance team working group. We have 3 items on the agenda today, issue 483. Before we get to those, any announcements from anybody here on the group call?
I wouldn't. I don't know. Tierney, I was just wondering though, is there anything new to bring up on the assertion?
Yeah, in yesterday's RFC meeting, in the past few, it's been basically like the doc is done, and there's not really much more to be added. I think the general consensus is to not do the third-party trust system yet. I think that is a fine additional RFC if we want to go down that path, but it's a separate concern. So the initial kind of thing is, the doc is complete. It does require a decent amount of work from the registry team. So what Darcy brought up last time or yesterday was that we'd potentially look at implementing it partially in the CLI first. So like having a more minimal implementation and then expanding into the full RFC, just because that's kind of what the process allows for presently. So yeah, it seems like there's going to be progress. It hasn't started yet. Like work hasn't been committed, anything like that. So spoken progress, but not actual code progress.
Sure. Okay. No, thanks. That's good. I knew this particular audience is interested in that, so that would be good. So
yeah.
Cool. I can link to that in the doc then. So basically just an update on the status of the assertions.
Yeah.
Sorry, did you say that it landed, or I know we talked about it, but is it?
Yeah, so it didn't. The doc is basically done. It's not been merged. I think that might be a next step. I should follow up with Darcy on that. But yeah, it's been basically agreed upon. Yeah. So
yeah.
Cool.
No, I mean
that it comes up. Well, I know you know how frequently this topic comes up. So I guess Michael, was your thought that this group, either through social or just these meetings, kind of help communicate and share that these things are taking shape, as we can just be another vector to help spread that sort of information?
I think it's that, and also the vulnerability collaboration space came out of this group, and I think this is a great step in that in solving the problem. I still think that we need the broader, like I totally agree with Tierney. You don't want to stop doing something useful to solve the full case, but I think that there's still like the bigger case, because there's other tools that use the CV data to report vulnerabilities. So this may resolve it in NPM audit, but I still think we want to work on a broader solution where, instead of people having to do an assertion to NPM, an assertion to SNCC, an assertion to maybe to CVE separately, we could somehow figure out how you do that once, and and everybody can consume that data. And as Thierry mentioned, there's also that second part of like third-party assertions. I think people could add value, but again, I'm totally in agreement that you don't want to boil the ocean and end up doing nothing, right? So yeah, that's why I totally in support of this moving forward. And so yeah, we should help promote it. And this, because we sort of kicked the discussion to the package collaboration space, and I know we haven't made as much progress as we'd like. This group, I think we just want to keep talking about both this specific one and the larger problem.
Yeah, and just expanding on that, I agree that third-party stuff would be nice. I think there is value to be added. It's a lot of to get it right is a lot of work, and it's much more work that has already been done, and I want to make sure that the even underlying system that would be based upon, or at least for npm, that's the system I'm thinking about. But that system is at least validated in like useful to people, and then expanding on top of that, especially because one thing I've very often seen in the JavaScript ecosystem is building up a feature, and then it not it doing like 80% of the things people want it to, and then there being like another 20% that if we had a little bit more context from the broader audience, because JavaScript is so huge, if we had that additional context, we could have built it in from the beginning. So shipping it kind of smaller and then expanding on like, how are people going to use this? And like, like I pointed out in the PR, this could be built on top of it already. And then like, people can kind of build out trust on top of it. Like people can already build out trust from third parties, and then we can expand on that with, the ecosystem and getting it shipped directly. So.
And I guess just for myself, new to that, following along to that process, or for anybody else, kind of what's the life cycle of an RFC? Because obviously that has to go to backlog. So consensus is separate from implementation, I imagine.
Yeah, it depends. It depends on what the feature is. It depends on who's proposing it. It depends on like, is this the npm team documenting something that they're kind of beginning to work on, and like are just building out like consensus on, or is this something that the community is requesting, and like this is a rather large request that crosses not just the npm CLI team, which is what the RFC process is for, but it also crosses into the registry team, which is a different team in GitHub. And so that increases the velocity, or decreases the velocity and increases the kind of time to resolution on it. So it depends. This one I don't expect to see fully implemented within the next 6 months. We might see the CLI implementation in that time frame, but I'd imagine the CLI implementation would be at the end of that time frame, or at the begin, like just after that time frame.
Is the CLI implementation, like, can you use that on its own, or is that? My guess is no, but I'm asking because maybe I'm guessing wrong.
Oh, my computer died. Can you hear me?
Nope.
Okay, cool. Sorry, my GPU. No, I could hear you the whole time.
Okay.
My GPU keeps crashing because Windows 11. So yes. It would be theoretical. I mean, like it was basically just brought up. I don't know exactly what the implementation is. I assume basically it's building out a more MVP-ish state of it, and then expanding that into the registry features as we go. So, but what that fully means, I'm not sure. So yeah, we'd have to talk to RC and the team about that.
Because I was just curious if it was something like, well, you could have a CLI command that did the assertion, but then published, instead of sending it to the registry, somehow put the information into locally, and then you could also make it so that the client could consume that information locally, which would kind of be an interesting experiment just on its own, because you could do stuff just not quite as transparently. So okay, well, I guess we'll see.
Cool. And then I guess so would in this case, like, would there typically be like an issue in the backlog, so the RFC would get merged and then it would pop up in a backlog as an issue? I guess if anybody wanted to keep following along for the status past the RFC, is there a good way for them to?
I think generally the RFC gets merged into accepted but not implemented. There's two different directories, and then I don't know. I that's a good point, and I can ask about that. I'm not sure. Generally, I think what happens is when it starts getting worked on is when there's a PR up, but not necessarily an issue that gets referenced in the process.
Okay, cool. All right, that's good to know. Just help everybody follow along there. It's some good stuff. So, and thanks for getting all that, putting all that together in the RFC as well. And go through all those comments and feedback. So,
Just another RFC, just kind of reporting on that work. Another RFC I was working on was the license auditing RFC. I ended up pairing a bit with Isaac, and he basically pointed out that directly using licensee, for context, this was basically a proposal to use licensee, which is an existing npm module, to effectively do license audits. I got that proof of concept working. For the most part, like JSON output was all doing fine. And I got to the point of rendering it in an audit, and it turns out that's all done through with Arborist. And I ended up pairing with Isaac a bit, and it realized that all the tree resolution also is happening in Arborist, which is how you do npm audit fix. And effectively just going to have to re-implement it in Arborist directly as a new kind of structure in the audit functionality. I'm not sure on the timeline on that, but that's something that I'm excited for. It is definitely a little bit above what I've done before, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, excited for that.
And so, if you don't mind, could you link an issue? And
yeah.
And so, I know that there's like is this the difference between like just some light validation of package JSON just for the actual? So is it different from just saying like, oh, this isn't a known license format? Does it go deeper than that?
It's a lot deeper than that. Yeah. Okay. So it's basically giving an allow list and a block list of licenses.
Oh, I see.
And
so
then,
it's like on a whole node
right.
modules. You could be like, you get, so if your company's like, we can't use any software with this license, and you do an npm install, in theory, it'll be like, hey, these 5, you might want to have your team review, kind of thing.
Yep, exactly.
And that's why you're building it into IC. Got it.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then theoretically, that building it into Arborist would also allow some nice things, like if something gets relicensed, Arborist could do resolution on. Arborist could do resolution on. Sorry, I'm promoting him. Arborist could do resolution on. Kind of like, cool, if V3 is licensed MIT but V2 is unlicensed, go to V3, that kind of thing, which is very useful. That is, having worked on a licensed product before for JavaScript modules, that is one of the most consistent problems, is just something isn't licensed and they realize it and fix it. There isn't like a machine readable license. And so that's a very common use case that I actually really want to solve for. So yeah.
Awesome. That sounds cool. I grabbed that link, so that's going to be in the doc as well. So yeah, I think this is great, at least for anybody either in this group or following along with this group, to that we're able to kind of start tying the kind of the community organization against actionable work being done in the npm team itself, so that cross-pollination seems to be gaining some traction. So I don't know, did this request start from this group, or is that just
this is me wanting this tooling, which I think I initially talked about in this group or very early on, and then I went and built it myself, and then I got poked to do it with npm, and I think that's a better place for it. And I'd like to see this tooling be persistent in the ecosystem, or omnipresent in the ecosystem, in the package management ecosystem. I fundamentally don't think that this should be paid tooling. I think that's a pretty toxic state for the ecosystem to be in, and it presently is paid tooling in a lot of cases. There are open source modules, but a lot of companies sell this, and I would prefer if people didn't have to pay for it. So
yeah, I see. That's well, I mean, it certainly seems like it's something that's very easy, or from the npm CLI's perspective, just probably glossing over a lot of code in there, but it's literally already running through the tree, right? So
Yep.
what a better opportunity than, right, during your npm install or
Exactly.
or whatever. All right, that's awesome. Cool. Excellent. Great updates. I definitely want to make sure we have some time for the agenda items, but before we move on to those, any comments or follow-ups on those two topics from anybody? Awesome. Well, hopefully I did your updates justice in the doc. So make sure I was able to get those nice, concise, and clear. But if we're good there, then let me continue with the agenda. So it looks like the first or the next item then would be issue 458, which is status updates and next steps for PKG create repo initiative. So I'm not sure if anybody here is able or would like to give an update on the status of that work, maybe Mike or
I just have to drop off, but I did type in a few updates in there in the minutes, and I'll see everybody next time. Bye.
All right, cool. Thanks. Have a good one. Okay, so it looks like from the notes that Michael left that the progress is still ongoing. The point of contact, I'm not sure. It doesn't look like John is here, so we might need to move on to the next item unless anybody does have anything they want to bring up on this particular issue. Okay, go once, twice. All right. Next item is issue number 413, suggested list of modules to help get support info into. This one also looks like Michael was pretty active in the issue thread, but I'll throw a line out there into the crowd. Does anybody have any updates or any information on this particular issue by chance? I know there's been like blog posts and like there's activity. I'm not sure if anybody even knows what's left on this one. Maybe that's something to put into the notes is, is there kind of like any actionable last steps or, I know sometimes a lot of it is if it's content related, you kind of put it out there and you kind of, let it propagate and you might not close it, but maybe that's, so I will close it, but I'll put a note saying that, maybe if someone wants to provide a summary, I'll put a comment in the issue saying there's a summary status available that we can then kind of refer to if anybody does want to participate on it next time. So, all right, let me.
Which one was this? 458 or 413?
Sorry,
373.
413.
Okay, cool.
Okay, I will. Hold on. I'm in the wrong place. Okay, I will clean up those caps locks. All right. Then the last item then is issue 373. This is an umbrella issue that I created for draft documentation promotion. This is just kind of one of those ongoing issues, but just to quickly summarize for everybody here, effectively, there are a number of documents in our package maintenance repository that are in a drafts folder, and they've been that way for a little while. And so this issue is meant to basically just list them all and figure out if they're good enough that they should just be, maybe with some spell check or something promoted right to the basically the non-draft folder, or if they need a little TLC, maybe someone could, take an hour to proofread, update, whatever it needs. So I haven't worked on any of the newer ones, but effectively in the issue, it's more of just like a call to action for any of us to, pick up one of these and just brush it off a little bit and basically open a PR. And it could just be as simple as, a Git move effectively if it's, complete enough. I think it's kind of one of those cases that there's not a lot of historical records as to, what it needed to get out of draft. So, if it's good enough, then why keep it tucked away? So, but I will, does anybody have any updates? I want to speak for the issue.
It looks like the dependency management one got closed, the issue at least. I don't know if we want to check that off or if we want to reopen that or if we want to remove it.
Oh yeah, Dominic, I think you have been working on that one, right? Or is that someone else? I could be wrong.
Which one?
Keeping dependencies in Node up to date. It looks like it got
I
merged in
vaguely-
302.
I vaguely recall doing something like that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you
Yeah,
PR'd it in December 2019 and we merged it December 7th last year.
All right.
We could probably check that one off.
Perfect. Done. Okay. Let's see. So let's see. Make a note. Let's see. Merged recently. Side. So for anybody here or watching, this if you've been interested or wanted to contribute or looking for some, now that Hacktoberfest is around the corner, if you want some items to help out, those could be pretty easy and quick. And anybody can reach out to anybody on the team, ping them if you have any questions. But I think for a lot of these, you just get the PR with whatever's in there. I'm sure there won't be much friction to pushing that through.
I think for things to show up to count for Hacktoberfest,
Oh, the labels.
you have to label them. Yeah, but that's, if we want to do that, that's totally fine.
Yeah, I mean, I guess this is the last item, so we pretty much have a lot of extra time. Does anybody have, I guess, more from like a Node.js Foundation perspective or point of view, any opinions, or has Node ever participated in Hacktoberfest? I have my own thoughts on like the consumerism side. The spirit is great, but I'm just curious how you guys have interacted with it in the past.
I would say go ahead, and if you want to label things, go ahead. Like I think that should be up to working groups, and I can't imagine someone telling us that wouldn't be okay. So if we want to label something as a working group, that's totally fine, or a team, or whatever this is. We have too many structures. If we want to label it as that, that's totally fine.
Cool. Yeah, I generally like to have a good reservoir of different types of issues for anybody that wants to help, and so it's always nice to have those non-code opportunities. So if there's no issue with kind of promoting like, hey, if you're looking for some good first issues, I could share a link to an issue filter or something. All right, that's good to know. I can do a little bit of that. That may be a good way to knock this issue off in the next couple of weeks, perhaps.
Yeah.
So yeah, if no one has any objections, I might do a little promoting of that. So good to know. Let me make another cool. Well, that does bring us certainly through all the agenda items. I guess at this point, I'll just yield the mic back to the group. Any topics of interest that anybody wants to present with some of the time left that we have? All righty. Well, then I don't know how to end one of these other than saying goodbye. Kieran, did you know how to do all the
You're
stream
good.
stuff?
Yep. You just end the meeting and the stream will stop. So
All
if
right.
you hit the leave button at the bottom, maybe it's the same for you. But yep, that'll just end it.
All right, right on. Well, thanks everybody for coming out and giving the good updates. I'll make sure they're all in the doc, and I guess that's a wrap for today. Awesome. Well, thanks. Talk to everybody in a couple weeks.
Bye.
Bye.